Hey everybody, this is Danelle here at Networkchain. Hope this finds you doing well. What a week this past week was. Let's go ahead and start with the cryptocurrency market update. As usual, at time of recording, we have Bitcoin currently trading at $102,000. It's down about 7% over the past week. Ethereum down 12% over the past week, currently trading under 3,500 at around 3,400. We have XRP down nearly 9% at $2.28. Solana down 15% at about $158. And then we have Tron at 29 cents, Dogecoin, the biggest meme coin of them all, just under 18 cents. It's down nearly 6%. And Cardano rounding out the top 10, down 7%, currently trading at around 57 cents. So if we look at the Bitcoin charts a little bit, we know that Bitcoin has traded below $100,000, but it has continued to bounce back up. That's a good sign, but we are still seeing some instability. So we shall see whether or not Bitcoin will continue to stay in this range. And we've mentioned in previous posts and videos as well that this $99,000 level is a key level. So if we continue to bounce back up and stay above this level, there's still good opportunities for Bitcoin to potentially move back up higher, maybe back towards all-time highs. We shall see. Obviously, time will tell. But if we start to see Bitcoin going down below that $98,000 level or so and closing the week under that level, then we can begin to get a little concerned about where Bitcoin could go from there. If it does close below 98,000 a couple weeks in a row, then we likely could be seeing more downside, and it could potentially head down all the way down to around 74,000 or so, where we may have some more support. But we don't want to get there just yet. Obviously, we want to make sure we see what happens with the Bitcoin price over the next several weeks. We are in the fourth quarter, so normally the fourth quarter of the year after the halving generally does very well, but we know that we're in a different market right now because things are a little bit different with Bitcoin. The 4-year cycle, so-called 4-year cycle, may be no longer. So we will see going into 2026 whether this is going to be a change in direction and seasonality when it comes to Bitcoin and Bitcoin's price. But if we zoom out, and this is what we have to do as investors, long-term investors particularly, is that look at where we were in 2023. The very beginning of 2023, we were under $20,000, under $17,000, and we've done over 400% in less than 3 years' time. So basically, any investor would take that return day in, day out. So we have to make sure that we consider what is happening over the long term. Bitcoin continues to do well, outsized returns over a 4, 5, 6 year time frame. And we here at Networkchain are definitely long-term holders. Obviously, you choose what you want to do. We're not much of a trader when it comes to Bitcoin. But as long-term holders, definitely Bitcoin has performed and has continued to outperform a lot of the major indices and major assets in the current market. So the main reason for this video is today regarding not only Wall Street joining the chat and becoming more and more involved in cryptocurrency as Bitcoin gets more intertwined with financial markets, but we see here that the Bitcoin ETFs, the spot Bitcoin ETFs, made it onto the market. I believe it was around January. It was January of 2024. So you can see here, basically since January 2024, it was around between 42 and $45,000 when those Bitcoin ETFs were made available on the open market. And you see since then we've still done over a 2x. So we notice that now institutions are in the game, that Bitcoin has seen a steady rise. We see that stair step. We see this stair step that's happening. So we could potentially go on that similar run where we stair step a little bit in range and then go to the next level. Obviously, time will tell, but if you look at the charts, just basic reading of the charts, that is a possibility. So we'll continue to keep you posted, obviously, on that. And if we look here, Investing is very important, and we'll continue to make videos regarding how important investing is and how it can really change lives and how it has changed lives and how most wealth is in the stock market. If you see here in the United States, and this is from the end of last year, the top 1% in the United States, the top 1% of wealth in the United States owned over 51% of the equity market. So that means that the top 1%, they own equities. They are in the market. You see, the next 9% owns about 36%, and the bottom 50%, the bottom 50, over half or around half of U.S. households own 1% or around 1%. We'll say it's 5% even. We'll say about 5%, owns less than 5% of the equity market. So what does that say here? If you're trying to get to this next 40%, if you're trying to get to this next 9%, if you're trying to maybe one day get to the top 1%, you need to be in the stock market. You need to be invested in equities. You need to be invested in companies that are changing the world. We need to continue to learn about investing and get involved in investing if we want to or have a chance to get into these higher wealth levels. Obviously, investing isn't the only way, but part of that could be owning your own business and building your own business. But that also is investing in yourself and investing in your business. So in some way, shape, or form, most wealth is built through investing. So that's just the main message that we want to get out there. So if you see here how the U.S. wealth is distributed, this is from Visual Capitalist. You can see from, once again, from last year. We'll have obviously the numbers of 2025 come out sometime next year, but you can see the top 1% or so, the number of households that own or have a net worth of about $13.7 million. You would have to have that to be in that, top 1% or so. And they have over 30% of the share of wealth of the entire country. And you see here, the majority of folks, the bottom half, only own about 2% of the share of wealth in the country. So we need to have an understanding of where wealth is distributed, how it's distributed. And we saw from the chart earlier that a lot of that wealth has been accumulated using the stock market. So if we have a look at the American dream, we've also talked about this in videos before, but this number continues to go up. So now the cost of the American dream is about $5 million. If you look at just a typical American, average American household to have a somewhat comfortable life, part of that includes owning a home, having a car, potentially raising a couple children, being able to take care of your health care, maybe go on a few vacations, have a couple pets, get married, and also be able to have enough money for retirement. And this number probably is going to go up for sure, because for one, Social Security benefits are not going to be the same 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now. And then also retirement potentially could be much longer as people live longer. So either people are going to be working longer, and we're starting to see that as well, that the workforce is getting older, or people who are staying in the workforce longer, I should say. But then also, because people are living longer as well, we have to have or consider having more money for a longer retirement. But right now, if you have about 1.6 million for a 20-year retirement, that's basically an average of about 80,000 a year. So if you're not working, you have a house that's paid for, usually about 80,000 or so, at least right now, before inflation continues to get worse. That should, for the most part, be able to take care of your typical expenses when it comes to maintenance of your home that's already paid for. At this point, maybe your children, if you have any, have now graduated and gone, from college and are now taking care of themselves. So you just have healthcare bills and things of that nature. Maybe your car and vacations to pay for. So we need to see that $5.043 million is estimated is what is needed for the American dream, which is incredible. I mean, that's an incredible number. Most people will not see a fifth of that in their lifetime. So it's an eye-opener, and definitely something that we all need to consider as we try to continue to move forward and be able to take care of our families, and use something to consider and think about when it comes to what are the ways that we can add to our net worth, add to our value? How can we store value? Because obviously, when you're dealing with fiat currencies, with inflation, that value of that dollar, that value of that peso, that value of that euro loses value over time, because it takes more of them to buy a home, for example. As you can see here, buying a home now, the median price home in the United States is now $400,000, when about 10-15 years ago, it was half that, at around 200,000. So homes are not getting cheaper. Groceries are not getting cheaper. Cars are not getting cheaper. So now we have to find ways to store value. And that's why we believe in Bitcoin so much. And we see that institutions and large banks also see the value in Bitcoin. The amount of Bitcoin that the top 100 public companies have, it's over 1 million Bitcoin. So they have nearly 5% of the Bitcoin supply, and that continues to grow. And companies like Strategy continues to buy more Bitcoin. Companies like Metaplanet continues to buy more Bitcoin. Miners are continuing to mine Bitcoin. Now they're also getting to the AI space as well. So we know that these public companies are going to continue to try to have more Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We know that some of the largest banks are also buying into Bitcoin, not only for their clients, but also as an investment. We know that the BlackRocks of the world, which is the largest asset manager in the world with over $13 trillion of asset under management, has the Bitcoin ETF that is doing incredibly well. They have about $80 billion right now at current prices of Bitcoin of assets under management with the ETF. Fidelity, another one of the largest asset managers in the world. We're seeing that these institutions, these banks, these public companies are coming into Bitcoin. And so we need to have an understanding of this is where the wealth is investing. And we saw those charts before about where the top 1% are investing. They're investing in the equity markets. Now they're starting to invest into Bitcoin. So maybe Bitcoin is worth a look. That's the whole point of this video. Maybe Bitcoin is really worth a look, because Wall Street has entered the chat, and Wall Street is where the money flows, where the money goes. So we need to make sure that we watch, not only listen, but watch, because sometimes what they say is opposite of what they actually do. So make sure that you keep posted on what's going on in the markets, particularly if you become an investor in the markets. We're trying to make sure that we keep you informed of some of the things that are going on. Obviously, there's lots and a wealth of information that's out there for you regarding Bitcoin and some of these other cryptocurrencies, if that's what you're interested in. But we want to make sure that we are able to provide as much information as we can, not only here on YouTube every week, but as well as on X and as well as on IG. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We look forward to reaching out to you and linking up with you on the network chain. In the meantime, take care. Bye-bye.